welcome to the IHC podcast. My name is Marissa Hemstreet. I'm from the Canyoncito Band of Navajos, and I'm also the communications coordinator for the Indian Health Center of Santa Clara Valley, where we provide medical, dental, counseling, WIC, nutrition, and prevention services to over 23,000 patients, while specializing in the unique healthcare needs of American Indians and Alaska Natives. Today, we're speaking with Daniel Borrego. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Daniel Borrego. I'm the newly appointed fitness coordinator for the Indian Health Center of Santa Clara Valley. And traditionally, I'm from the Bay Area, born and raised. Been here for about 20 plus years.
Yeah, well, welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join us here at the IHC podcast. So, how long have you worked in the fitness or the wellness industry?
It's kind of a funny question, but I started my time working in the fitness industry when I was in high school. I started coaching wrestling, and then kind of from there on, I've always been kind of coaching or somehow involved in fitness. So I'd say about 10 plus years now.
Nice, that's fun. So you said you started with coaching?
Yeah, with coaching.
Okay, awesome. What type of sport or?
So it was wrestling. So started doing sports when I was really young.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from that, though, I've always kind of loved teaching and just kind of showing people technique, or there's always been that interest, right? And so just from there, I knew that one way or another, I was going to be coaching or helping.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us today. So again, as the fitness coordinator, what is it like to work in your profession now?
I will say, although I'm very new into the position, there's a lot to learn, and it's been a really positive experience overall. My time working as a fitness coordinator, I really love the community. The San Jose community is super great. You get to interact with a lot of people, and with that, you tend to kind of get a little bit involved in their journey, right? In their fitness journey. You want to see them succeed, and with that, sometimes it's a bit challenging because you're we're almost there. You just got to push a little bit harder. You got to do a little bit more, and so on both sides, I would say overall it's mostly.
Well, I'm glad, and I'm glad to hear that you're that supportive voice for them when they feel like they don't have another rep in them.
Oh, for sure.
Awesome. So June is Men's Health Awareness Month. So what does men's health mean to you?
Yeah, men's health means a great deal to me. Coming as a man, I know it's extremely important to kind of be aware and understand that there's kind of two main aspects when it comes to men's health. It's just our physical health. And when I refer to physical health, I'm not talking about physique, right? That everybody kind of thinks oh, you need a six-pack, you need to be super buff. No, that's not really what it comes down to. And our mental health, right? Mental health is just as important as our physical health. And so with that being said as well, when I speak on physical health, it means our activity level, how much activity we're doing, how much rest we're getting, and kind of what we're putting into our body. And when I speak on mental health, right, there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of stigmas out there surrounding how men should be, right? Once again, I talk a little bit about the physique, right? Everybody thinks you have to be, super strong, six-pack. More so too, not really open with your emotions, not really being able to talk about how we're truly feeling. And I think that impacts a lot of men. I think a lot of men don't really think about how their mental state of mind affects their health and the way that they live.
Oh, I like that definition too, especially when you're saying that it's not just your physical well-being or even for the aesthetic purposes of having a six-pack or, well-defined muscles. The important part is you as a whole person, not just physical, but the mental as well, and making sure that all of that kind of works cohesively. So I'm glad that you have that perspective too. So what type of work do you do at the Community Wellness and Outreach Department, and how does that affect men's health?
Yeah, so my job as the fitness coordinator is I basically oversee our CWO gym.
Mm-hmm.
There we have a variety of things that we do. We offer group classes, we offer just general gym services to people, personal training, as well as other community events and engagements. That kind of includes our produce mobile, our elders lunch, and a couple of other events as well. But more specific to men's health, I love it. I always like taking that hands-on approach. And I think when it comes to men's health, right through the door, it's really important to establish, right, to kind of let go, or not let go, but to kind of drop the barrier, right? A lot of people come in general to fitness and they're really scared, right? it's essentially you're trying to connect with somebody you don't really know. And in trying to break that barrier too, it's not necessarily that they're not honest with you, but they're not honest with themselves sometimes, you know. They see themselves and they're like, oh, like right away, it's like, I want to lose 50 pounds, I want to do this, I want to do that. And it's always kind of reminding them that the little steps and kind of these smaller goals are what's going to lead us to maybe this bigger goal. But in itself as well, understanding that failure can happen and failure is just something that happens along the way. But more specifically for like men, right? I specifically cater and create workout plans for them, right? The exercises that men might do might be a little bit different than for some of my other clientele. Uh, and with that, right, it's understanding kind of how our body functions, understanding that some exercises might be better for you, and it's all as well dependent on injuries, their state of health, and other things. But it's just really important to keep in mind, right? Uh, Health beyond all else is super important, right? Even for most of the people that come in, they vary in range, right? Everybody's gonna have a different regimen, but understanding some activity is better than no activity.
Yeah, I like that. Especially the part that you were mentioning, just that they come in with these unrealistic goals, and so part of your job is trying to help them, minimize those goals slightly, just make them incremental where they build up on top of each other, not so much to where they have to, like you're saying, lose that 50 pounds or gain X amount in muscle.
Yeah.
And it's the little steps that count. So I appreciate that, and I'm pretty sure that resonates with a lot of our listeners. How can folks access the services that you all provide at CWO?
Yeah, so thankfully our gym services are free and open to the general public. The only thing that we require is a medical clearance form from your medical professional. And as soon as you do that, you're more than welcome to come in and use our gym. We do offer a variety of other services as well. Like I mentioned earlier, our produce mobile, our elders lunch, and other events like that. And I think the first step, honestly, is either giving our office a call or just walking in and showing face. I think that's the first step. It's hard for a lot of people to commit themselves onto what I call like a fitness journey, right? And there's going to be good days and bad days, but if you take that first step and show that interest, it speaks a whole lot.
And then I do want to circle back to one thing that you were mentioning earlier is failure, and that's normal. It happens. It's a part of the process. As someone who's also worked in the fitness industry for a while and just an avid gym goer, you train to failure. You train to the part where you feel like you can't lift up anymore. So, I just really like reiterating that back to our listeners that it's okay that if you can't give us one more rep, that's fine. Maybe you only have like 7 in the tank and not 8.
No, for sure. And then like it ties, I think, directly into men's health. I think one of the main, and I hate to skip over a little bit, but one of the main stigmas in men's health is you can't fail. You have to be this perfect being, right? And you have to kind of be a provider. You have to, be strong. And no human is perfect. And that failure, right? As you reach that point every single time, it's not you losing. It's you learning. It's you understanding. You know what? I might have failed this time, but the next time I'm going to come back stronger.
Yeah, testing those limits. I like it. In your opinion, what are some of the common misconceptions, like you were saying, or stigmas surrounding men's health, and how can we work to address them? I know we touched a little bit on not being a failure and things like that, but are there any other ones that you see maybe most commonly with your gym goers?
For sure. I think the common thing, right? And I hate to, when people come in, I hate to kind of sweep them from under their feet when they come in and they're like, oh, I want a 6-pack, I want this. And it's understanding the realistic goals, right? And for a lot of people, and you've worked in the fitness industry, and so you understand that not everybody's going to have a 6-pack. Not everybody is going to lose their projected weight. Not everybody's going to gain as much muscle as they want. I mean, body genetics has a lot to do with it. What we're consuming has a lot to do with it. But I think one specific male stigma that really sticks out for a lot of not even just my gym goers, but for people in general, is this idea of kind of, I guess, machismo, right? Kind of, right? And so it's that kind of identity with having pride and being very masculine, right? A lot of these people, right, and they don't really come to the gym too often, and so we don't expect you to know every single movement for your body, but as soon as they come in their first time using the gym, they're trying to do like a heavy squat, or they're trying to do like a really heavy bench press, and it's understanding, yeah, that's cool, and that's good, but we need to be doing technique safely, and we need to be kind of aware of our body, right? Our body can't handle immediate stress just like that. You have to build up to it.
Yeah, and even warming up. Warming up is okay. Warming up is safe.
Yeah, oh yeah. No, a lot of people are like, no, let's get right to work. And I was like, oh, did we stretch? Did we warm up? And it's like, what? What's stretching?
Yeah, just even recalling like the rates of injury if you don't warm up, if you go straight into a super heavy exercise, or if you do warm up, but maybe you did stretching instead of, a dynamic warm up, and what's the difference between those two. It's always fun to talk about with new gym goers or friends.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, it's different for every person, right? And it's all dependent on like their health condition, right? Everybody comes in and starts their gym journey a little bit different, right? But I think for the most part, what everybody could benefit from is understanding when you go in there, try to go in there with a clear mind, right? Any kind of preconceptions that you might have about fitness or working out, if you go in with a trainer or just in general with kind of a clear mind, and you're willing to take in the technique, or willing to understand why we need to warm up, why we need to stretch, why we need to cool down as well, it's going to help you in the long run, right? Understanding those different things, right? Because science is an evolving thing, right? The fitness industry, or the kind of fitness exercise science, is a really like new thing, I would say. It's not really like in like the last century, right? It's a more recent science, whereas a lot of other science is a little more established. But when it comes to exercise science, it develops and it changes over time. And as long as you're willing to understand that maybe what you knew in the past was right, it might have changed.
Yeah, the one that I remember the most is in my PE class. Like, I'm maybe 12, 11, and my coach is like, oh, yeah, you can't squat with your knees over your toes. It's bad for you.
Yeah.
So you hear this as a child, and you grow up, you go out into the world, you go to a training, and they're like, what is the perfect squat? What does that look like? And here I was, whoop, raising my hand. I was like, knees can't go over toes. And the instructor, who's worked in the fitness industry for years, he has a degree in exercise science and all these other things, really close to PT, physical therapy. And he was just like, well, why? Can you explain it? I was like, well, isn't it bad for your knees? And he was like, well, how is it bad for your knees? If children can go into a really deep squat and their knees past their toes, what do you mean it's bad for your knees? So just, again, opening those minds to understanding that, not everything that you hear, especially growing up, about wellness is accurate today.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and I mean, more so like on like the squat, I had the same conception, right? Knees aren't supposed to go over the toes. And, beyond that, when I had actually started, learning a little bit more about fitness, it's like, well, wait a minute, right? Why? And with that why, it's understanding everybody has a different body structure, right? More so, like, I'll give you a perfect example with some of my clients, right? Because of their, either previous injuries or health conditions, a typical like normal shoulder width squat is not best for them. Maybe they need to take on a wider stance, or maybe they need to adjust accordingly. Right?
Yeah, all bodies are different.
All bodies are different.
Yeah. So for one of the topics that you mentioned a little bit ago was machismo. Can you elaborate on what that means for the listeners who don't understand Spanish?
Oh, for sure. It's actually surprisingly, it's also an English word as well. I was just as surprised when I had found out. But essentially, it refers to kind of having pride in masculinity, and understanding, and just essentially putting unrealistic stereotypes on yourself, in that you need to act a certain way. And so it's more prominent, I will say, among men, and I think the word does stem from the Latin word machismo, right? But essentially, what it is, I mean, it's very present in a lot of people, whether it's conscious or unconscious. But beyond that, like, it's just breaking down that barrier. It's hard for a lot of people, especially when you grow up in a very like stereotypical masculine environment, right? You don't necessarily realize that it's bad, but as you kind of grow up and start to experience the whole world, if you're not able to really understand kind of your mental health and how machismo might kind of affect how you're feeling or how you're expressing how you're feeling, it can be bad, right? And it can affect the people around you.
Yeah. What are some of the ways that you worked on that for yourself, if that ever was a factor?
I will say I was thankful enough. I mean, I feel like most men definitely experience some type of masculine stereotype in their life, right? That they need to be this strong protector, or even if they don't. For me, I was thankful enough. My parents were very open about me expressing my feelings and kind of just being honest with myself and honest with them. And I think for a lot of people, that's what they lack. It's hard when it comes down to it, it's hard to be honest with yourself. It's hard to really sit down and be like, you know what, this behavior maybe isn't the best. Maybe I should be a little more open. Maybe I should be honest, right? And I mean, even growing up doing sports, right? There's always that feeling of like, now I want to differentiate being kind of becoming a better version of yourself and being too prideful and, kind of hiding emotion and just being strong, right? When it comes down to it, if you work on building yourself into a better person, right, that really means, right, understanding what our failures are, right, understanding how we can build from those failures and kind of making a plan. I think what a lot of people would benefit from is simply taking down a piece of paper and writing it down, right? It helps you visualize and really see, like, if I put it down, it's going to hold you, maybe even if it's this much of accountability, it's going to hold you more accountable than you might be if you just say it in your head.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, for me, growing up being a multi-sport athlete, it's not really one of those things that you necessarily think about, but the mindset is just as important as the physical aspect, right? And so I didn't really uncover it fully until I was in college. And, before, when I had heard my coaches tell me like, hey, like you should, write it down, make a plan, really essentially make a schedule for yourself and see how you're going to achieve this goal. For me, I would just kind of look and laugh and be like, well, I'm just going to do the work. Like, I don't have to write it down. Right. And it wasn't until college when I had actually like started, I wanted to take a different approach. I thought, I was like, well, wait a minute. Like, if I haven't been seeing as much success doing it the way I thought was right, let me try doing it this way.
Mm-hmm.
And what I ended up doing was doing a daily journal. And so at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day, I would write down kind of small goals, right? Then I would outline 3 main goals, 1 goal for the day, 1 goal for the week, and 1 goal for the month. And at the end of the day, I would write down what exactly I did to really work on those specific goals. And once again, I love to kind of emphasize that failure is important in order to learn. And just because while I was writing that journal, just because I had failed and maybe not hit my daily goal, or just because I failed and wasn't really working towards my weekly goal, it was a way to remind myself like, hey, you need to keep yourself accountable. And from there, honestly, it was when I was in college wrestling that I had really seen success in journaling and writing down my goals.
I start and I stop my journal so often. I have entries that I have spaces of 8 months to a year between them. So I go through little cycles when I'm really into using it. But I think when you do journal, it serves that purpose for that time, and maybe you're not going to continue journaling your whole life. But if you want to get to a specific goal, that really does help.
For sure. And if there's any takeaway from the journaling aspect, it's just, and I think for men, this speaks kind of greatly for men, is just writing down how we feel, right? It's important. Once again, when it comes to men's health, it's that physical and that mental aspect, and they're both just as important. And if you write down how you're feeling, it's really going to help you. I mean, you may not have fitness goals, but you may have some other type of goals, whether it's to, I don't know, get that next promotion, if it's to, there's so many other types of goals that one can accomplish, but writing down how we feel and understanding our emotions is one bigger step to really achieving whatever we want.
Yeah, I like that. So you're giving them some tools of maybe starting a journal of list out the goals that you want more towards like the immediate future, the month, the week, the day, things like that. And that'll help you like pile those wins up. And while failures happen, failures are also normal and
Yeah.
it's fine. It doesn't mean that you need to stop your journey. It means that you just have to find a different way to get there. So how do you think that we can encourage a more open dialogue about men's health in the community?
Yeah, honestly, I think this is a great start. And I think in more recent years, just in general, a lot of different associations have been doing an okay job of educating people what's positive men's health, right? I think beyond doubt, education is important, right? Education of the topic, talking about the topic, and getting other people to talk about the topic, right, is the hard part, right? And I think the next step, right, for me, when I was younger, one of the like highlights, and it's gonna slightly go off topic, but come right back to it, right? The highlight of preschool and like elementary school was show and tell, right?
Mhm.
I used to get so excited when somebody would bring something in, and they'd show it and they'd tell us about it. And I essentially think we need to do the same thing with men's health, right? And so I think some more kind of community events, right, that are centered around maybe mental health or men's health, right, with either it doesn't have to be exercise, right, but kind of discussing those topics and understanding that hey, we as men, we need to take care of ourselves. I mean, if you look into men's health, there's kind of a lot of sad statistics surrounding men and their health, right? Men typically partake in activities that are a little more, or not a little more, that are dangerous and typically lead to an earlier fatality rate than women. Aside from that, men do suffer from a pretty high suicide rate as well. And with that, once again, I think it definitely ties into that mental health aspect.
One of the other things that I see a lot too in the men's health community and just making sure that folks are more aware and are actively taking care of themselves is you even see, like you were saying earlier, big health and wellness events such as like Prostate Awareness Month and even this coming month, June, being Men's Health Month. These are the times that we really want to promote men's well-being and encourage them to go see their primary care physician, to encourage them to go check and see if they maybe have prostate issues, if they haven't gotten their prostate checked recently, amongst other things, even checking their skin in case like they have any skin irregularities.
I mean, even in that, I think there's a lot of there's more so a lot of mental barriers for men to kind of think about with that. And I think when it comes to, for example, like prostate exams, super important. But the kind of mental battle that one might have is like, oh, like, am I manly? Like, if I do that, or oh, like, why am I gonna go to a doctor? Like, I'll be just fine, right? And it's that idea of self-reliance that like, oh, like I can take care of everything, and I kind of, which ties in perfectly, it's understanding that it's okay to ask for help, right? Whether it be for your physical or mental health. And if we can break that barrier, right, and we put our health in front of our pride, men might be better off.
So what is one way that you would also promote this type of men's wellness in a family unit?
Well, I think it depends, right? And I think you would probably have a lot better success working with like a younger family, right? Maybe someone who just became a parent and understanding, and I can't speak because I don't have any kids, but I can say, because I had such a great kind of example with my own parents, it's kind of establishing clear communication between all, right? Making each other kind of feel safe in whatever you're going to say. Expressing those emotions are important, but kind of being honest as well, right? If you can be honest with your partner or your kids, it's going to make a whole lot of a difference, right? Whereas you're kind of penting up and holding all those emotions, and you're not really talking about how, if you're maybe experiencing pain as a man, right? Not really talking about it, or, if you're experiencing some type of discomfort, maybe in your relationship or in some other aspect of your life, not talking about it. And so I think with the families, once again, it just all ties into having some type of community event. If you could have maybe like a workshop, I think a workshop would be like a great idea where it doesn't necessarily have to be all about men's health, right? It could be maybe something that has to do with art, right? Expressing yourself with some type of outlet, art, exercise, right? There's so many activities that we can do to really take the edge off, right? And I think what a lot of men confuse as well is they'll partake in activities, but they aren't necessarily healthy for you, right?
Mhm.
And so we hear about it a lot of people that when they feel stressed, they'll, either do drugs or they'll drink or they'll do things like that. And I think it's understanding that, right, it's okay to have fun, but there's a line, right? Understanding what's healthy and what might be unhealthy for you.
Mhm. Okay. And then for folks who are looking for, specific resources or organizations, what are some recommendations that you would give to men who are seeking support and information about their health and well-being?
Yeah, and I think honestly, two good resources, probably very underutilized by a lot of people, are suicide hotlines and crisis centers. Specifically, 988. You can always give them a text or give them a call, and there's always going to be somebody there 24/7 for free and confidential emotional support and advice, right? Once again, we as men, it's hard to really open up and be honest with ourselves sometimes. And so maybe talking to somebody else, right? And it helps a little bit talking to maybe somebody you don't necessarily have any connection with, you don't necessarily know. You can really open up and talk about it, and it'll definitely make you feel a lot better. And I think another more of a news organization as well is Harvard Health. Harvard Health has kind of a lot of articles and a lot of informative information or just informative articles on exercise, on diet, on various topics for men, even for women and children as well.
I like those resources. I mean, those ones, aside from the ones that IHC provides,
Yeah, of course.
with our wellness center, where we do, like you were saying earlier, nutrition counseling, and there's other events throughout the month, right? Produce Mobile, and then you were saying Elders Lunch.
Yeah.
Produce Mobile, for folks who don't know, is an event that we host here at the Indian Health Center at our downtown location currently every third Friday of the month from 11:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. And that is where folks can come pick up from some free produce, some like fruits, veggies, USDA approved meats, and come say hi to community. You can also volunteer to pass out food if you would like to with the IHC staff. That's always welcome. And then at the Wellness Center, they can also receive resources through either signing up for a training with you,
Correct.
and attending a group exercise class. What kind of classes do you guys offer?
So as of now, we have three group classes. We offer a chair class, which is more geared towards people that are kind of limited in mobility. We do offer a Zumba class, which is honestly really, really fun. And our final class is our youth fitness class. We love working with the kids, and so it's a great way for them to kind of get moving and burn that energy.
Mm-hmm. And how would you describe a regular personal training session with you?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people are scared, right? When they hear personal training, they think like, oh, we're gonna lift barbells over our head, we're gonna do like jumping jacks and backflips and all different types of things. Once again, coming in with a clear mind, it'll really help. But your normal personal training session with me, it's very simple. We start with some kind of light stretching and some movement to really open up our body. And it's all dependent on what your fitness goals are or what part of the body we want to work that day, as well as some kind of primary moving exercises for those main muscles like your chest, your back, your core, right? And some supplemental exercises as well to really get you burning calories or to build a little bit of muscle.
Nice. And would you say that personal training is for a specific type of people?
Nope.
It's for all people?
It's for everybody. And this was something that I was thankful enough to learn very early on in my fitness career. It's understanding that people come in all different shapes, sizes, from different backgrounds, but everybody is more than welcome to kind of come and experience what a personal training session is, regardless of how much experience you have or you don't have, right? Everybody has to start somewhere, and I think personal training is a good starting point for a lot of people.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And would you like to leave a parting message to folks who are, interested in learning a little bit more about the importance of men's health?
Yeah, I think kind of the last message I want to leave with you guys is it's never too late to kind of start onto a path of wellness, right? A simple change into your routine, exercise, maybe a change in a healthier diet is all it really takes. I want you guys to kind of imagine, a mountain full of snow, right? And at the very top of the mountain, if one little kind of pebble or snowflake falls, that can kind of become a chain reaction and that can snowball down, right? And essentially that's what we want to do with our health. We want to start with maybe the small wins, the small changes into our lifestyle and just continue to build upon that, right? And it's not an easy journey, right? Occasionally there's going to be some bumps and some bruises along the way, but understanding that those failures aren't the end of our journey, right? It's just maybe a slight roadblock.
I like that. I like to think of roadblocks as obstacles to overcome as opposed to just a stopping point. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. If you like our content, check out our social media. Our handle is at IHC San Jose. And if you would like to learn a little bit more about some upcoming events that we have, check out our URL, indianhealthcenter.org/events. Bye.